Go on. I want to say a special good evening to Pooch West MP and Shadow Finance Minister, Mr. Dave Tancoo. A pleasant good evening, sir.
Pleasant good evening to you, Mikey, and to your listeners. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here. So much is going on. We were just talking to Ved Siaram, financial consultant. We were talking about BRICS, and I mean, it's very, very scary. And I know you've been looking at many of these things. When you have countries like Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and when you talk about BRICS, we're talking about China and India will be, by 2050, the world's dominant suppliers of manufactured goods, while Brazil and Russia will become dominant as suppliers of raw materials. Where do we fit into this equation? Are we way behind? Are we even having this discussion?
Frankly, so I've been listening to your presentation with my friend Ved Siaram, and I'm in full agreement with him. Quite frankly, Trinidad and Tobago has been sitting idle. We have been resting on our laurels while the rest of the world have progressed. So the reason we have BRICS and the changes that BRICS are making right now is because they read the market, they read the play, and they decided that they were not satisfied with the way the conditions existed, and they made changes. And these BRICS countries and the other countries that want to join onto BRICS, that are signing on to the agreement, they decided to change their economies and to structure their economies to diversify and to join together and to unite. As opposed to what is happening with Trinidad and Tobago, we sat on our laurels hoping and praying that the price of gas and oil will go up and energy products. And when it did, even when it did, because the Ukraine and Russia had their dispute, even when it did, substantial revenues came into this country and nothing was done with it to ensure that when the prices fell, which they have done, that there's some sort of rebound. There seems to be an absence of planning by the government of Trinidad and Tobago over the last 8 years, 7 years going into 8 years now, to ensure that there's diversification of the economy away from oil and gas. We will always have oil and gas substantially. It will continue to be the mainstay of our economy. But we must diversify into the future. We must look and see that oil and gas are dying options, and we must look for other options. That's where BRICS has it up on us. That's where those countries have their governments are forward thinking as opposed to ours being negative thinking and backward and stuck in our way.
But Mr. Tancoo, it seems that the average citizen doesn't understand. I mean, quite recently, the IDB, in a report titled Preparing the Macroeconomic Terrain for Renewed Growth, says that the Latin America and the Caribbean countries need to rise to the challenge to lower inflation and reduce the public debt burden in 2023. Are we even looking at these things?
Unfortunately, I think we are not. What we did, and the prediction even by the IMF, is that in 2013, we can expect a deficit of about 2.8% of the gross domestic product, which is substantially higher than the 0.2% that the Minister of Finance has projected, even after he received $10 billion plus more dollars as a surplus over 2022. So he boasted about 2022. We were doing so well because of the higher price of oil and gas, did nothing about it. And in 2023, we're only halfway through 2023, the projection is already that we're going to go into a larger deficit than expected.
Yeah. Now, you've also been speaking out on what's taking place with the finance minister and the foreign exchange. You said he's playing word semantics with the population when he claims that we don't have a forex crisis, but a shortage. How does that deal with the situation?
Well, that puts us in an even greater crisis. You see, we spend a lot of money, a lot of US dollars, and we were talking about the importance of the value of US compared to the growing importance of other currencies. But we spend a lot of US dollars importing stuff. We import food stuff. In particular, there's a substantial food import bill. But over $5.5 billion in US dollar equivalent is exchanged and bought and sold in this country every single year. Every single year. The central bank alone sells our foreign exchange, so that will be taxpayers' reserves. They sell over $1.2 billion US dollars every month. Sorry, $1.2 million US dollars every month. $1.2 million US dollars every month is sold by the central bank. That does not include other US currency coming in and going out from other businesses and business ventures. The problem with that is that more money is going out than is coming in. So when a government, for example, draws down on the HSF, they take US dollars out of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund and uses and pushes that into the foreign reserves. When we get loans in foreign exchange, that goes into foreign reserves. When we get grants, like during COVID, we have several million in grants that came in, including the special drawing rights. I think it was $700 million US dollars that came in from the special drawing rights. All of those go towards propping up the foreign exchange holding. So imagine that we had maybe about 30 or 40 billion US dollars over the last 7 years that came in via these forex, these methods. And still, we have a growing shortage of foreign exchange. That tells you that more money is going out than coming in, but it also tells you that these one-off things that help prop up, we are losing them. So we are not going to have them accessible to us. We are running in a serious foreign exchange crisis because the government has not diversified the economy. What diversifying the economy would have meant, and they mentioned it earlier, what it would have meant is producing more locally. So we would have import substitution. We could produce much more food and therefore spend less money on food. We could make manufactured products here. We could make iron and steel here. We used to do it before. And we can export those things. So we both not use foreign exchange to import, and we also generate foreign exchange by export. We had Petrotrin. We had metal steel. We had both of those of foreign exchange generators for Trinidad and Tobago. We had the scrap iron dealers generating foreign exchange for Trinidad and Tobago. The government shut down all of those things. So if you can visualize it, we have more foreign exchange going out and less coming in, which means our reserves, our storage, our stock is falling. Think about it as your bank account. That more money you are taking out, money from your savings, more than you're putting in. Therefore, your savings are falling. But when that happens, when that happens, and you have to continue to draw down on your savings to do basic things like to buy food for your country, and food prices are going up internationally, what we end up doing, because we are not generating, we will end up with a shortage, which we are already in, and therefore we will have a greater crisis. We will end up in what is called a foreign exchange debt crisis.
Yeah, but all of this is taking place the backdrop of a very volatile global market. Because, I mean, one of the things that the Minister of Finance said to regional businessmen is that Trinidad and Tobago has 8.5 months of import cover without counting the U.S. reserves in the HSF. Here we go again with the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. We don't even know exactly how that is functioning, how much growth, and what is taking place in the midst of the backdrop of this global market.
And that's a very valid concern. One of the major problems that we have is we don't know because the ministry has refused to tell us, and the HSF board does not also share the information as to where these funds, where our funds are invested in. But it's not just the HSF. Dave mentioned it before. There are many other sources of foreign exchange. The crisis now that we are at a point now where we're not generating what we need, and therefore we will get to a point where we will run out. We are approaching that point. You know, I want to mention something else. Many people believe that the crisis in Venezuela came about because of U.S. sanctions. That's not true. The crisis in Venezuela, which led to serious social decay and the collapse of the economy, came about because of a foreign exchange crisis. It came about because of a foreign exchange crisis, which is probably why the minister is playing these word games. But if you can't get foreign exchange, if you have to travel for medical or to buy something online, even if you're traveling, you can't get foreign exchange. If you're a small business owner trying to import raw materials to make carnival costumes that you can rent out or sell, you can't get foreign exchange. Then where are we heading? We are heading in a situation where the economy is collapsing. And I want to focus a little bit as well on the point you made. The point you made that I reminded the citizens that the minister was boasting that we have 8.5 months of import coverage. That is worth. When the minister came in, there was 11.8 months of import cover. We have 8.5 months now, and he has already spent hundreds, and I'm telling you, on average, they spend about the central bank, I think it was 1.6 billion US dollars leave our reserves every year. So for the last 7.5 years, that's what has been leaving, which is why we are in the crisis that we are in.
Yeah, but
when that happens, the government is going to put tighter controls on access to foreign exchange. Tighter controls means it's going to cost more because now small businessmen have to buy these things on the black market. So we end up with a situation where small businesses are going to start to go out of business because their prices are going to be higher. Do you know, MikeeK, that if you decide that you want to bring in a few jeans, just the pants, when those things come in, you have to pay a tax, right? You have to pay a tax to bring them in. But a large conglomerate, which has no problem getting foreign exchange. So you bring it in, you have to pay a tax, and then when you sell it, of course, you have to make profit. So your cost of doing business has gone up. Firstly, you would have had to pay more money. You would be paying $8 and $9 per US dollar. So you would have had to pay more money to get the US to buy the good, and when the good comes here, you still have to pay a tax on that. A big conglomerate is buying US from the state, from the banks, and getting money from the central bank at $6.90. They start with an advantage. And when they bring in the same jeans, they don't have the hassle you have to pay the same kinds of duties. So what they are doing, what the government is doing, is promoting a specific business, well, I wouldn't want to say a specific conglomerate, but a specific business size. Big business are getting all the foreign exchange. So, you know, you can buy agricultural produce in some of these groceries cheaper than you can get it at the grocery next door, the green grocer outside, cheaper than you can get it at farmer's market or the regular market. It is because they are buying in bulk and there's a lot of import content there. You can get imported tomatoes cheaper than you can get tomatoes grown in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, but Mr. Tancoo, that does not add up in the sense that recently the Minister of Trade and Industry, Paula Gopi-Schoon, said that SMEs account for over 200,000 people to be employed. They employ over 200,000 plus people, but yet still these SMEs, these small and micro enterprises are fighting for survival. Many of them could not have reopened after the heights of the COVID pandemic, and there was no economic lifeline. So it just doesn't add up that we're hearing statements from these ministries and these ministers, but the action does not reflect exactly what they're saying.
I don't know if you recall, Mike, because during COVID was the crunch time for a lot of these small and medium-sized businesses. And it took 1 year after COVID hit everybody, 1 year afterwards, the Minister of Finance came to the Parliament and confessed that 90% of the money that they were allocated to the small business as support during COVID, 90% of this thing was not used because there were some problems accessing it. So small businesses did not benefit. What do you expect the small businesses to survive on? So and we have figures saying on average maybe about 6,000 or 7,000 small businesses, small and micro businesses and medium size went under. Those are the guys that employ 40%, well, 200,000 employees. Those are the guys that support some 40% of the gross domestic product of Trinidad and Tobago, and the output of Trinidad and Tobago come from the SMEs. And when a government sacrifices them to the altar of big business, then what that does is it affects the economy because less production happens and less people are employed. Which is why we have a high level of unemployment right now because of the same issue.
And
now I want to compare that. I want to compare that to when Kamala Kosagbi-Fester was in government, where we were creating small and micro enterprises, we were creating small contractors, we were promoting the small and medium-sized business sector because we recognized that they are substantial employers, they could generate foreign exchange, and they could contribute substantially to the economy. Once you promote the economy, and people don't seem to remember that, they simply realize that. But if the economy is growing, then everything else follows suit.
Yeah, but as far as a fair playing field, I mean, that might just be wishful thinking to have, that sort of social equity across the board. But these conglomerates, and based on what you said, they are conglomerates that generate foreign exchange, but still draw down on allocations from the central bank as authorized buyers. And some conglomerates have financial interests in the banking sector, and they have no issues getting foreign exchange. It seems that everything is stacked against the small man once again.
And that is true. Now, if you would recall, a lot of these conglomerates have existed for a long period of time. When a former governor, Jwala Ramaran, declared the numbers game, how many big corporations were receiving foreign exchange. So he identified, I think maybe it was the 10 largest recipients of foreign exchange per year. And when you looked at those names of those companies, they were the conglomerate. But there were several business houses in the same conglomerate that was getting this money from the central bank. In addition to that, you had those persons those conglomerates also had shares in the banking sector. So they were generating money. On the one hand, they were generating foreign exchange that they hold in foreign exchange. Right. They were getting foreign exchange from the regular banking sector, and they were getting foreign exchange from the central bank. Where still, will the small and medium-sized businesses get foreign exchange from? They have to go to the same banking sector, which gives the conglomerates their money. So we are competing as small businessmen and medium-sized businessmen are competing with the very same owners of the foreign exchange for foreign exchange.
Totally unfair.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Our time is up, but please give us your closing comments quickly.
Well, last weekend I had a press conference in which I asked the minister. I didn't want every cent. I wanted to know where central bank, which is our foreign exchange reserve, the foreign exchange reserve that belong to citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to know where that foreign exchange is going. Who is getting it? And I challenged the minister, because this is not the regular banking sector. This is money that they take out of our foreign exchange reserves and give it to specific people. $120 million per month for the last 7.5 years have gone out. I would like to know where that money has gone. Who has benefited? Because we are not seeing small and medium-sized businesses growing. And if they were getting foreign exchange, they would have had the opportunity to grow.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tancoo. It's been a pleasure, and we'll be speaking again sometime in the near future. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you very much for the opportunity,
Thank you
Mikey.
so much, yeah.